Good morning, everybody. Let's continue with the next panel, which I think is amazing and its theme. We're going to talk a little bit about the innovations that happen in the slums, in the favelas, and the rural zones, the urban zones. And a curious fact is that most of the innovations come from the slums themselves. I wanted to bring some slides to you to provoke you a little bit for the discussion and to heat up the conversation. So can you show my slides, please? So let's talk a little bit about the Brazilian versions of social innovation in the slums and favelas. And, well, almost overnight, the favelas are in the new middle class in Brazil, the new class C, as we define it, which is measured by consumption. And I'm very inspired by Sérgio Vasque that said, new class C, stands for culture, and C stands for new things, which in Portuguese is with C. So they're fighting, and they have a bunch of projects that involve young people trying to bring different things into their homes, and this other person can't break their startup. This is different. These are different realities. This is a Brazilian person is a person that goes with the flow. We go with the flow. We search solutions in the most creative and the fastest way, or through our shortcuts. This is one of the biggest characteristics of the Brazilian people, finding shortcuts, finding new ways of doing things. Now I'm going to mention Janie Jacobs, who has a very powerful book for us to understand about networks. And Jenny Jacobs talks about something very interesting that we have been missing in the big cities and then the big hubs, but we still see in the slums, which is the relationship of trust, where you many times you leave your house and you leave your key at the grocery store next to your house. And your son, when he goes home from school, he's going to get the key at the grocery store. So we don't have this relationship of trust anymore. And one of the secrets of microcredit is in this spaces, the relationship of trust, that the person is going to get the credit and the community is going to audit this credit. We shouldn't discuss only the 20 cents increase in our bus fares. This shouldn't be the only discussion, the quality of public transportation or the costs of public transportation. I think we should discuss the decentralization of our cities, the decentralization of our countries, why things need to be concentrated. And this is a good example. We're here. The Berrini Street is not planned for this much development, and Paulista Avenue, downtown. This city is so big.
Look at the wealth of opportunity we have here in these slums. The guy doesn't take 4 hours to go to work. 4 hours he could be working on in this location here. And this is what we want to talk about. That's why I want to call to the stage the host of this panel, Anderson França, for whom I have a great deal of respect. He's a great entrepreneur from Dharma Agência, from FunQ in the University of Correria. We always exchange notes. I want to call to the stage the panelist Eline Rodrigues, from Periferia em Movimento, Luiz Henrique Nascimento from SPOC, the Unity of Favelas, Joaquim Melo from Palmas Lab, from Palmas Bank, Alexandre de Maio Catraca Livre, Conscient Youth, and our insider from the social networks. Let's have a good conversation here. Thank you very much to everybody that are here since 9 a.m. in the Vivo venue in São Paulo. Thank you that is watching us in the social networks. You can send us our question from the whole country, the whole world, by hashtagging Social Good Brazil, hashtag Social Good BR. You can send us a comment, a thought, an idea, a reflection, a questioning, a complaint. You can send us a hello, and we can read and adapt to our discussion in the panel here, so feel free. I would like to introduce our panelists here. Aline, Luis. Actually, I would like you to help me with something here. Who in here is connected by Twitter? Please lift your gadget. Anybody that is connected in Twitter and Facebook, you're gonna do something for me now. The slums are noisy. If you you have to put in caps lock. Periferia is on the stage. Hashtag Social Good BR. A shout out to all the hood in the stage. I would like to thank the folks at Social Good because I'm here today. I was on the internet in the past in Florianopolis, and I heard a debate going on, and I went through Twitter using this hashtag to say that the slums were on the stage. I included myself on the debate. We have people here from slums all across Brazil that are participating in this panel. I would like to reinforce the main question in which we are going to work today. The question is, what are the versions that are genuinely Brazilian of social innovation in the slums and favelas of our country? That's the theme. In seeking a Brazilian version of social innovation, it is discernible the emergence of favelas and slums that come out of the creativity and daily life. How we are improving our country and contributing for a trajectory of success with solutions for our main social issues. Well, I will comment on this for 5 minutes and introduce myself to you guys and talk a little bit about how I might have contributed to this process. And I will let each one of our panelists to introduce themselves and talk for 5 minutes about this theme so we can barrage us through the social media. I love this. And after this, in the aquarium format that we have done here previously, if you are on the Vivo venue, you can come up here, pick the microphone, and in an objective manner to ask your question. Are we set? Okay, so on the same line of what Luis just said, I am in the Santa Cecilia neighborhood. I'm from Rio de Janeiro in Madureira, and I come to São Paulo, and I get a little bit scared with everything that goes on. Each time I come here, there are more people, and it's always the same trains, the same subways, but always more people. It is discernible because every time I go into the subways, it's more tight and more crowded. So everybody have their own device and they can update. And if I take this off, people hit me. I can have this on the train. I was reading today in the morning an article written by Juliana Dias, and she reinforces the question and the theme that is really grilling me when I got to São Paulo on Friday. I gave a lecture in Hubby in ESPM University. I will be in Fiesp University tomorrow, and this is what we are discussing. The own slums articulating to talk about social issues with no mediators, the very inhabitants of the slums. And the question that I put forth, along with what are the models that are genuinely Brazilian, the question that I pose to you guys is social innovation, okay. But innovation for who? For my company, for my account, for my NGO, or for the slums? This is the first question that I think we have to put forth. We are not the United States of America. We are not Denmark. We are not Germany. We have a great deal of segregation, both economical and social, that is very complex, that we define from letters from A plus to E. Well, in this article of Carta Capital, the author proposes two inquiries that I want to share with you. Why in Brazil some people have the right to enjoy the city at the same pace other people have to face the city in a continuous effort to survive? Brazil has the image of being cordial, loving diversity, loving equality, but it's still essentially a slave nation and a segregated nation. She talks about a phenomenon that she studied, the phenomenon of the Southeast. Have you heard about this? People here, folks in São Paulo. Who in here is from São Paulo? Raise your hand. I will bring you an information that was relevant to me as an inhabitant of Rio de Janeiro, and I think it's very, very relevant for you guys. It is a phenomenon called the Southeast Quadrant that comprehends the neighborhoods of Pinheiros, Vila Madalena, Jardins, Vila Olímpia, among others. That are neighborhoods that are inflating, where the service quality and shopping malls and buildings are very good, and it's a very expensive square meter, and a great deal of people are migrating to work in this region, and these people come from other neighborhoods and from other places. We don't have to be a specialist in São Paulo. I'm studying this for 3 hours just to understand, and I realize this is true. People spend 2 hours minimum to get to this region. So what Jane Jacobs says from 1961, when she starts questioning the great major cities, one of the sources she picks, and for me as a Rio de Janeiro person it makes sense, is Le Corbusier. Along with Niemeyer, he designed the Ministry of Education here. And it's funny because Le Corbusier, he works traits in a poetic manner because he observed Rio de Janeiro. And when he observed that city integrated with the mountains and the beach and all that beautiful scenery, he draws the curve. And Niemeyer, that liked the curve, found a fellow architect to improve his thinking. In their mind, the city would be a wonderful city. But in actuality, what we have in Rio de Janeiro, it is not a wonderful city. But as a congressman called Marcelo Freixo in Rio de Janeiro says, what we have is a beautiful scenery for a city. Rio de Janeiro goes through serious issues of integration today, either in mobility, public transportation, and also the issue that was raised by Luis. If we build an integrated city, why is not the slums are not seen as a contributing factor in the social process and the economic process? Why do you always have the behavior of civilize the slums to say we have the great solution for you guys? Because we see from Stanford, because we studied in Harvard, in Columbia, because we have a doctorate in GV, and we are here today to tell you how you should use our boat that we park there. How we are going to tell you what to do, and we dismiss the knowledge in the slums, their knowledge of project management. The slum knows how to manage a project. I end my lecture and I will reinforce the question to the panelists. Each one of them will put forth their vision, and I talk about what I do. I started my initiative 2 years ago called Dharma. And today I work in 6 different arms. Communication. Dharma is essentially a communication institution. I started it in the Maré complexion, and I did not have a headquarters, so I opened it and I went on the streets. I was walking in the favela saying, okay, now I want to do a marketing institution here in the favela, but I did not have a headquarters. So we started another initiative with an agency called Flag in São Paulo, and this agency is here in Berrini, Flag Cubo, and we started an initiative called Funk You, working the chains of funk in Rio de Janeiro. So I started an education project that you see here in my shirt, and in 3 months we take a person and we put their project on the streets and work it. At least this is our goal. We have a project that was launched in nearby, an initiative of the Foundation Telefônica called Outcast, which is education for kids and youth and programming language. We have an initiative of architecture that we really do print sustainable housing with resources that can be shared in an intelligent manner. And finally, we have a process of a consulting project. All of this was born in the slums. It was not born in an incubator of Endeavor. Endeavor helps us today. But when Endeavor got here, and we have the first TEDx in a favela in the whole world that became a global case with 3,000 reais, and the former president spoke there. We involved everybody to do a TEDx in a favela, bringing in a former president with 3,000 reais, and this was really a breakthrough for us. Thank you. Well, thank you. The question I ask is, innovation for whom? I pass the floor to Aline, reinforcing our main question here. What are, in your vision, in your understanding, in your trajectory, what have you observed in your daily life? Genuinely Brazilian versions of social innovation that are being conducted in the slums and in favelas.
Oi, tá. Bom dia, gente.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to cut you for a moment because we didn't mention people over the internet and we need to highlight them. I feel a little bit slum. I'm not from the slums, but I grew up in the countryside, and I think the countryside in a country as Brazil, where we have such great distances and there's so many lacks in development and connecting regions, the countryside is the slums. We have to be very happy when we talk about slums, and we have to identify ourselves. We were trending topics in Twitter. I need to tell you, in general, I think we were into second or third place. We were trending topics in Rio, in Guarulhos, slums in São Paulo, and also trending topic in São Paulo. So it is, we need to applaud it. People from Twitter, please continue, appear in our event. You can send your remarks, and I'm here following you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Em pé? Acho que eu fico mais. Legal. Só me adaptando aqui ao cenário. Primeiramente, agradecer a oportunidade.
First of all, I would like to thank the opportunity of having a table about slums and the ghetto and talking about the ghetto at this event. It makes sense because when we talk about social, we talk about people who are less favored and people who don't have the right access to technologies and innovation. So it is a pleasure for me to be here and be part of this table. I represent Periferia em Movimento. I am Aline Rodrigues. But I have a representative in the back. He is taking a picture of me now. Thiago Borges is as responsible as I am for this project and for everything that we have developed. I'm going to put his picture here because people can't see him from the back. So we are now leading Periferia em Movimento, a communication collective. Before explaining a little bit more about this collective action, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it's funded. I know that I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to be very brief. We are journalists. We met at college. And since we always lived at the ghetto, we were bothered by the big media that didn't reflect, at least not in its totality, the ghetto. We recognize that there's a scarcity of resources, there is violence, but those that are near us and those who live in the ghetto know that we are very rich. We have a very big culture. It is not a culture. There are cultures, peripheric cultures. When Luis talked about class C, it is a concern of ours that people try to put us in the same group and in the same profile. We know that we're much more than that. So I brought some data that reinforces what I'm saying. Only in São Paulo City, it is an average because this number has increased. We have 9,000 cultural collectives. When I talk about cultural collectives, I'm not including the NGOs. It goes way beyond hip-hop. There are a lot of actions of music and theater and literature. When I talk about literature, we have about 90 literature readings because we have almost one reading every day. There are 2,500 works, literary works, 2,500 titles. This is a representative of the ghetto who is now in the big media and telling our story through this book. And he is responsible for a specialized bookstore that with only ghetto works. These are some examples of works and authors, and they are very diverse. When I say I thank you for being here, it's because I'm representing a world of people who do things. There are some examples of communicators here, such as me, but there are millions of others communicators, so these are some examples. 40 samba groups spread on the city of São Paulo. Remember that it's only in the city of São Paulo. And what is our role in this story as communicators graduated in journalism? It's being a communication collective about, to, and from the ghetto. Of course, we are accessing the world on the internet. We're taking this information to the world, but our priority is taking this message to the ghetto, and from this ghetto, we are reflecting not the distance, making suppositions and hypotheses, but we're living there and we're understanding it and looking people in the eye so that we can reflect it afterwards. So this is what we bring because this is a different coverage. These are some actions that we have disclosed in our website. We have more than 200,000 people that are impacted by our work. This number is not updated because when I sent the presentation, this is the number. These are the figures that I had. 133,000 access to our website. And Twitter, we have 680 followers, and Facebook, we have about 2,500 fans. 2,500 fans. But we're happy with this data, but on the other side, we know that they're not enough. So when I look at my colleagues at the table, differently than a market logic, I don't look at them as competitors because we're all communicators. I look at them as partners, as people that are in a place that us as Periferia Movimento cannot reach. And they are there to represent our need of communicating and disclosing what the ghetto does. So as data, we have 60 million people living in urban ghettos. And we have other examples of rural ghettos, and only in Brazil, 60 million. In São Paulo, 8.4 million. So there's a lot of people, but if any movimento cannot reflect all of this and talk to each one of these people, so we have different actions, other actions. And recognizing this as well, besides producing content, we understand that we need to pass this on. So we invest in training. This is an example of our amateur movies workshop. We have another journalism workshop. We are in universities talking about this ghetto look, how to look at the ghetto and respect the culture that there is in it. And I would like to invite you to experiment this look, because when I talk about an inside to inside communication, people tell me I'm not in the ghetto, so how can I have this experience? I invite you to come by and experience passing through these barriers that are established by society. We from the ghetto, we explore other spaces to work. With the example of Gino, as he said, we go to work, we commute for 2 to 3 hours in trains and subways and buses. So we invite people to do the other way around and go and visit us too. This is a final message, which is what we defend from Renan Inquérito. If the story is ours, we should talk about it. So we should bring our version of the story. So this should be our space for approximation and not being included. I wouldn't say being included, but contributing to the construction of this innovation and this technological revolution of society. This is what I would like to tell you. I'm here for conversation afterwards. So following here, so that we can have time to talk to everybody, this is Luis from the Popular School of Critical Communication from the Favela Observatory of Rio. So how can you make the observatory, how can you observe the social innovation happening in favelas? I'm trembling, but I'm not, I'm shaking, but I'm not nervous. I'm cold because it's very cold here. But I'm going to give up on a part of my time to talk about the innovation that you need to do, which is the innovation on the look that you have over the favelas. If you don't change the representations of favelas that we have, we are not going to change the city. We're not going to have the peace that we discussed. This doesn't change if we don't change the look on the favelas. We're bringing some pictures from the popular photographers and from the School of Critical Communication to help us update the vision that we have, hit F5 in the vision that we have, because it is stigmatizing. It is a mantra that is repeated over and over that the favelas are poor. The poor population, the poor young adult, it is violent, it is dirty, it is precarious. While we affirm that the favelas have potential, they are creative, they are giving, there are things in favelas that some other places have. The poor children, but the poor children have gadgets. It's not only poor from money, but are poor from attention from their parents as well. So we have to change the paradigms that the Class C is consuming and the favelas are consuming. You underestimate the entrepreneur potential of favela. For those who work with social innovation, they always give examples of a yogurt. In a country, I don't remember which, in a community, children were undernourished, so they were lacking iron and zinc. And the Danone made a campaign of giving yogurt. But if that didn't generate operational profits and exposure of the brand, the children wouldn't get their yogurts. So the problem there was not a economy chain based on yogurt. The problem was lack of cows. If any brand would be interested in raising cattle, people wouldn't need an intervention coming from the outside. So this paradigms break is what I would like to talk about here. I think what we need to innovate is the view that the city has on the slums, on the ghettos. A while ago, a big newspaper from Rio that said minor mugs a child in the front of the school. So when it is a middle class child, is adolescent. When it is a child from the favelas, they are a minor. So stop calling them that. Stop calling them a poor minor. They are young people, and they have potential. And the favela is the city. So I'm going to talk about the Favela Observatory. It is an organization that researches, criticizes, and proposes public policies and other technologies that discloses social innovation. But what we want is very dangerous, which is the republic. We want autonomy. We should stop mistaking privileges for rights. We think this could be scaled. We have some experience of some things that we started doing, and then the government started working on that as Conexão dos Saberes. It is now a policy of MEC. It is handled together with the Human Rights Secretariat, together with UNICEF and other actions that are bet on by other institutions. Our innovation is trying to produce intellectuals inside the ghettos. We are going to have the first university students that live in the favelas. And we have developed a place for researcher, which is very criterious. So we want, through the photography courses, the universities, the preparation course for master's and doctorate for the favela dwellers, we want to create intellectuals inside the favelas. So I'm going to talk about SPOC specifically, which is the Critical Communication School. It exists since 2005. We have been awarded with the prize of the best favela project in Brazil. We have a strategic partnership with Petrobras that believes in this project and benefits a small portion of young people, which are 180 a year. But we are the East. We are training activists. We are training people to have a big impact in their territories. So when we had F5 in our course, we talked about video course. There's a lot of people who make videos very well. Journalism course. There's other journalism course. So we try to think about what type of education we could offer that could be that they could do with affection that they wish. Photography, for example, we have Imagens do Povo course, which is one of the biggest courses in Brazil. I'm not saying that. A lot of people say that. It is a very complete course. It is a year. And we chose publicity as a graduation. We discussed publicity. We created what we call the affirmative publicity that has the initial concepts of the affirmative solution. So we do the publicity for the poor person. We see in publicity what is good for us, and we try to answer 3 questions. First one is if favela can create their own representation, their own discourse about themselves, and if this narration can leave aside this poor person thought. And if the favelas can identify their own problems of communication, we shouldn't bring someone from the outside that is going to help the poor people at the favelas. We have marketing planning classes, and a series of other things. They start identifying and solving their problems, even searching for outside partnerships. And the third one is how this experiences can be sustained. How can they live off of communication? Márcia is here. She is a photographer. She is from Nós do Povo, and she is an audio-visual student from our course. And how can they live off of communication? I already trained bakers, and I already trained security guards, so I could affect these people. So we should dispute the sense of city and public policies. And this is what we want. This is the invitation that we make in order to reflect Republic.
Joaquin, it's a pleasure to get to know you, Joaquin. My pleasure. Wonderful, Joaquin. All right, brother. Go ahead, shoot. Tell us how it is. I am from Ceará in the northeast of Brazil. I am shaking also from nervousness and from the cold. When they invite me to this event, I love Ceará. I say, wow, they are kidding me because except from good, I don't understand a thing of English and informatics or anything, but I came here anyway. Just 5 minutes, so you can see. Well, I'll tell you one thing. In Ceará, there is a joke that I like very much, and today morning I understand that it's not a joke. They say that people from São Paulo, they are privileged. The only people in the world that can see the air they breathe. Isn't that true? I was in the morning, it was great. The pollution is really great. Well, there is a great favela in Fortaleza called Conjunto Palmeiras. Well, God is great, so... Conjunto Palmeiras, I'm looking at the television here. When we work with data show, we give a lecture like this, but since we have a television here, I can look this way. It came out of a great innovation. Very smart people, very knowledgeable people, and very entrepreneurial. They created many hotels in Fortaleza and the beautiful beaches and all the innovation for tourism, and they screwed us. They pushed us to the end of the world in a region that was only mud and woods, and at the mercy of God, a terrible disgrace that we will observe now. But my wife bothered me so much with this PowerPoint presentation. Well, so it's either me or the PowerPoint. Let's mess with the PowerPoint. We won't touch the PowerPoint. Sorry, he has a very regional accent. Well, send me on the Dropbox. I said, well, I had this yesterday for lunch. Well, think of the shenanigans that was. If it doesn't work, please don't ask me for help. Let's bring somebody from the technicians. This is technology. Well, social good. This is Conjunto Palmeiras, the favela where they pushed us for. What is to innovate in this context? How do we innovate in this context? What is the great innovation that would have an impact in this community? Our great innovation was to organize the community, to organize the people, so they can claim their rights. Look what type of shenanigans that went on in that neighborhood. They have to overcome their own poverty. This is essential. Our great gift is life, and people are able to enjoy it and organize themselves and fight for their own rights. So the first major innovation of Conjunto Palmeiras was to organize the community and to organize initiatives. I'm sorry here. Okay. And what is essential? It was a process of 30 years where the people organized themselves. We taught the people to fight for their rights, to be socially aware. And this is the great contribution that I see for my fellow mate here. And not to just complain, to really start working for themselves and build their own communities. Conjunto Palmeiras was a neighborhood that we built with our own hands. Very proud of this. Everything you see there, everything from the houses to the schools to everything was built for ourselves by the inhabitants of the neighborhood. And today we tell you this story. It's not because we are pretty, we are rich, but it's because we built our own neighborhood with our own hands. So the great innovation in the community, when you are in conditions of poverty, is to put this in the minds of people. We are capable through organizing and fighting in our own hands. We can build our own destiny, to change our lives, to generate wealth, to overcome poverty. If this favela that is so entrepreneurial, so with such an astounding capacity for entrepreneurship, and that are always also people that get help from the government, but that are a great capacity for entrepreneurship. And if there is this skill, there is a great skill of innovation also. We have a major challenge to innovate, to sell to the basis of the pyramid, to sell to the poor people, to teach the poor people to innovate and create technological solutions, because at the same time you create innovations, you create jobs, you create revenue and development. It's good for everybody. It's good for a big company, it's good for the poor that had learning experience, it's good for the person who bought it and the person who sold it. And this neighborhood that urbanized in a process of 30 years is a great neighborhood today. It's very neat. We had a great innovation. The PowerPoint is all broken down, but it's no problem. We have a great innovation, and we were able to build a neighborhood through a process of fighting, struggle, organizing, and neighborhood entrepreneurship. Well, I have difficulties here with the PowerPoint. And 15 years ago, after we urbanized the neighborhood, we created our own bank. We are the first community bank of Brazil, Palmas Bank. We have three banks around the country, and this bank does everything: life insurance, savings, personal accounts, credit. But the great innovation is that it balances credit and local consumption. We have our own currency, Palmas. I won't get into it because it's a long story, but we have credit for production as well. We discovered a fantastic thing. We are 40,000 inhabitants. We only have to buy and sell for each other for us to solve our problem. So this community bank encourages people to believe in their power of change, this paradigm of the solidarity economics. We have major companies. I can do a merchandising of Paula Fashion, my company here. I'll even stand up so you can see me from far. If you want to buy a t-shirt, very well, Palma Fashion, that's it. To tell you this, we can create our own company. Do we need technology? Of course, but we can produce. We can bring a company to sell over there. So through our social currency, which are the Palmos, we have our credit cards, all our line of credit. We have a local bank, that is the Palmas Bank, is producing and selling in the community. I'll promise you I'll finish within 30 seconds. Now let's create a great bank called the Bank of the Ghetto, which is a group of many community banks with a centralized management tending to 3 million people in the ghetto of Fortaleza. So we are making major progress in the scale to create everything. We have to have technology and breakthrough technology. For this, we created the Palmas Lab. And in this encounter, I learned that their name is Rogue. It's actually Palmi Lab. No, Palmas Lab. This is what you call here. In Fortaleza, we have a different pronunciation, but I just changed the name of the whole organization. Well, it's a great shenanigans, so it doesn't matter anymore. So Palmas Lab has three main characteristics. It's a laboratory of innovation inside the community. So what is this innovation? First of all, it is an incubator of youth in their own communities. The community owns the laboratory. It is their own property, and the knowledge is their own property. It doesn't help to take the knowledge from the exterior, and the community doesn't absorb this knowledge. So we have programmers, we have technicians, skilled technicians. We are seeking many applications. It enables and creates applications that help to understand the economy for the people. So we work the socio-economic diagnosis. We work on the productive chains, what everybody produces, what they consume. We have an application that measures public opinion, the suggestions, the opinions on the bank, on the services. We have an application that diagnoses the socio-economic environment of the enterprise, how it is the stock looking, everything, always teaching the youth how to work this device and to help the local economy and to reorganize the economy in this perspective of the solidarity economics that we believe in. We cannot feed the information and the technology so the society of the market that thinks the only way out is to compete, to break each other's legs. That we call Big Brother economics. And we can see the people that kills the most is the one that gets the most. So can we make money? Yes, we can. Can we do business? Yes, we can. And banks generate business. This is a laboratory. We do diagnosis of socioeconomic environments of any enterprise and any situation, but it is a community. Everybody thrives, and this helps to create a better world, a more just world, a more equal world. Because the great problem, the difference of the word poverty and richness is equality. So I want to close in this sentence, on this note, that innovation and technology have to mainly grant access and to encourage equality and promote distribution and not accumulation and hoarding. So thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning. Well, rather, it's almost lunchtime. It is very good to be here with people with such interesting projects. I saw that Luis put on Sergio Vaz as a reference, and I think innovation is about this as well. 14 years ago, I liked hip-hop very much here in São Paulo. And I saw that Folha newspaper and many medias did not portray hip-hop and the ghetto in a positive light, so I decided to create a hip-hop magazine so we could have a space and a voice to showcase our work and to be competing with the major magazines with something coming out from the ghetto. And I used to meet Sergio Vaz all the time. I had the first article, and he asked me for a little space in a rap concert to talk about poetry, talk about his project that became Cooperifa, and that is so inspiring today. So I think this involves innovation. Innovation is present in everything that everybody said here. People from the ghetto as actors. We have the people from the ghetto, the knowledge, the social capacity that we have in the ghetto, that oftentimes they don't go out. And we have actors working in projects. I think the major innovation goes through the people of the ghetto being actual actors in the projects. Not only for them. A person in the ghetto can think of a solution for downtown and vice versa, but always the scope of the ghetto cannot be ignored when we think about public policy,
which is an objective of the expansion of any social policy. When we think about the questioning on innovation, I work in Heliópolis. It's one of the projects that I developed. And in there we have an ETEC. There was a land there, and then they built an ETEC. And 90% of this technical schools, ETEC, they are not from Heliópolis because they built this school, but they don't have the basic school so that they can apply to ETEC. So as the biggest cultural centers in São Paulo and the government, it is always thought from outside in. So they didn't, if there was someone there researching and analyzing, they would detect this problem and try to solve it. So innovation is a lot about that. Innovation is having more people from the slums thinking about solutions. Until a while ago, it always has a top-down approach, and we see the solutions that we have and the chaos that we live in. I'm going to talk about two projects that I'm in, which is the Jovens Conscientes in Heliópolis and Catraca Livre movement that has the Cultura de Ponta. In Catraca Livre, I started working on it. Since the beginning, it is an idea from Gilberto Gilmenstein. He had the idea of taking information about what is free in the city, and when the project was a year old, I was invited to participate. He wanted someone that had a ghetto look, because the objective of Catraca Livre is showing what is free and making the city more available and accessible. Back then, with the website we could only reach information through PRs and through press releases. So, and I went to the ghetto to show that from the 9,000 collectives of São Paulo, there's a lot of good things happening at the ghetto. So we tried to cover the ghetto without a lot of resources. The website started growing, so we did a partnership with Afro Reggae, and we released the Cultura de Ponta. So we have Catraca Livre, where we cover the whole city, and we have a team from the ghetto that covers the ghetto, and they disclose the events, and we were able to gather more information and open this space that many times the slums event, they don't have a PR and they don't have a way of disclosing. So we try to give visibility to that, and we thought about how technology could help people to live better in the city. So besides the events, we show where you could get medications for free, and the idea is trying to bring people together in the city. But we know that in the ghetto, we realize why people do not use Catraca Livre that much. Because this is a change in mentality. The state is always telling them that they're not. This is not for them. That the police only goes there if there is a problem. So if you have a cultural equipment, they think it's not for them. They shouldn't use it. So this communication work is aims at using these facilities a little bit more. This is an example of an article that we did. We are now releasing the Catraca Livre network. They can do their login in Catraca Livre website and disclose their own event. We have developed an application for iPhone. We have an application on Facebook. Facebook has 2 million fans. Catraca Livre has 2 million fans on Facebook. Anyone can create their post and disclose their event at the website. And now we're going to the 12 cities of the World Cup with the same idea. And the other work that I do is in Heliópolis. In Heliópolis, we used to have a problem, which was the alcohol consumption by minors, by young people. We have a study. This extends to the whole country. The children start drinking with 10 years old, 12 years old. That's when children start drinking. This is a very severe social problem. So they wanted us to find a solution for that. They gave us this mission, and we, DJ Reginaldo from Heliópolis and UNAS, an organization from Heliópolis, they told us, we have this problem, we have a proposal for solving this problem, trying to come up with some solution, and they left us free to create. DJ Reginaldo had an activity which is Balada Black. It was a party without alcohol, alcohol-free party. So we started using this idea of hip-hop and promoting parties at the cultural center without alcohol to try to talk about the alcohol problem. So we gathered a class of 12 teenagers that I give classes to them about how to make applications and how to make a video article. And so we told them, we have this idea, what do you want to do? So they got this idea from Balada Black, the party, and they created flyers and they disclosed it, the whole part of structure and execution, DJing, taking care of the party, cleaning after the party. This was all them. And Balada Black was the biggest reference of the project. We have been having this party for more than 4 years. More than 1,000 people go to Balada Black. When the government wanted to strengthen the prohibition law, the government tested this project in 27 schools last year. At the end of next year, we're trying to make it a public policy and extend it for 5,000 schools. So it's creating an option in the slums for these people from 14 to 18 years old. Heliópolis has 120,000 inhabitants. There are a lot of news on TV about how they want to stop funk parties in there. So there's nothing else for people to have fun carefully and safely without being exposed. Usually the funk parties in São Paulo, they bring really bad things, so they shouldn't be exposed to that. And this idea was very good, and we could scale it. In São Paulo, we did some parties outside of Heliópolis, so we followed this idea of social technology, of identifying the problem and finding a solution and scaling it. We're almost passing through this scaling barrier, as you mentioned, which is very important. And something else that we did with this alcohol theme was talking a little bit more about the theme. So you have another activity called Game de Responsa. We use video games to talk about alcohol. So this work in Heliópolis made us break these barriers of creating a social technology and being able to scale it in a way that we didn't expect, because people, even us, even we that are there working, we are helping the community, creating a solution. We had nothing ready. We had a project. Since I had some technical knowledge about websites and applications and Photoshop, I took it to them and they created it. And I think innovation is much about giving tools to the slums so that they can create their own solutions. Thank you.
Eu tenho números de Twitter.
I have some Twitter figures. He forgets that people from Twitter exist. Dinho is totally neglecting internet. It's because internet you only have clouds. That's where we meet. We can get together on internet. So since we're talking about ghetto, there is a ghetto phenomenon happening in Twitter with us. Bruna and Carol asked us to explain in the internet, but I'm going to explain it here too. There's a TV that shows dimensions. You can see on your left-hand side, and you can see that there are a lot of tweets from big followers, because we are on the trending topics and people want to take advantage of our virals so that they can gain followers. This is the biggest signal that we're doing fine. We're reaching a lot of people. It's not a very positive signal though, but it's a signal. At midnight, midday we had more than 1,000 mentions with our hashtag, and we were estimating about 4.5 million people, a gross reach. There's a group, a ghetto group that is here. Cris Guimarães from Protesto Materno. She's coming from Rio, and she's going to be here to follow us. She's coming on her own account, and Protesto Materno came up with the Vem Pra Rua movement, but are mothers that can't leave their homes and go to protests. So Chris said, if you're a mother who stays at home, you can do something anyway. And they are examples of mothers who did something even when they thought they couldn't do anything about it. Hi, I'm Amanda from Greenpeace Brazil, and one of the campaigns that Greenpeace has today is urban mobility, and one of the premises of a good plan of urban mobility for a city is the effective participation of the population in this plan. So what we have seen is that it doesn't exist. You see mobility plans and urbanism in favelas and in the ghetto. You see that the government takes a pacified favela, they put a skyline, and they are included. They are mobile. They have mobility. Everybody can use it. But it's not only that. Actually, listening to these people is very necessary, and listening about how they want to commute and where they want to commute to. What do you think about the government lacking in hearing these people? They talk about being participants, but we are never participants, in fact. I'm talking about urban mobility, but this is only an example. There are a lot of other programs and projects that I see that they talk a lot about participation and inclusion of people in the solution, but they're always a speech and it is never a solution. So how do you see this? I think it goes through that thing that I said, which is not having people from the ghetto in the direction and the board. Sometimes it's only a speech, a beautiful speech talking about integration, but maybe there are not people who is running that operation that is really worried about that. Her microphone is not working. So who does it does not use it. So we have buses that I have the privilege of being tall. I am a tall woman, so I can reach the railings on top of the bus. But there are a lot of people that are not as tall as I am, and they can't use this safety device. So when the bus breaks, they just fly over to the front of the bus. So for you that made the question, it is not about mobility. We gave an example about mobility, but I think it's about the whole structure in general. It is just a warning about these small details. Does it make sense to have a train station in a place or in another place? So how does it work? First of all, good morning to you all. I came to make the question before she made the question, but it has to do a lot with what she said. My name is Bruno Rakachi. I am a founder of Colab. I don't know if you know, Colab is a social network focused on citizenship that made the people's voices reach the government, especially the municipal governments. So we do this bridge. We are an intermediate between the citizen and the high-level administrators. And one of the main topics that we have in our minds is how you make people from the ghetto that do not necessarily have access to a smartphone or do not necessarily have access to internet inside their own houses, how do you make them speak their minds and participate?
So my question relates to hers. Do you have a way to bridge this gap and to do a proposal? Because I have a project in my back pocket, to do a partnership maybe with house inside the ghetto, so we can make the application available in Colab, so people in the ghetto and the favelas can access a computer and speak their minds and express their opinions about the city, just like all the people that have a smartphone. Well, I'll just talk about the other question about mobility along those lines. So, if you don't have Republican policies where these people not only are heard, but they also are part of the process, things will go on a different pace, a different path. We can observe in Rio de Janeiro today. In São Paulo, the ghettos are very well determined and very well separated. But in Rio de Janeiro, you also have them mixed in downtown. So the inhabitants do not have their opinions heard. The city of Rio de Janeiro becomes more focused to tourists. I do not live in a favela, but I can purchase bread in the morning because the only thing available is bars for tourists. So this goes on in a number of places where the policy of removal creates a state and a city that is more and more privatized. The city is becoming roads that take us to our work, to shopping malls. So what I mentioned before about the dispute in the city for a more public city, and people need to be listened to. You need to empower those people. That's why the Favela Observatory, our project between November and December, will conduct an international seminar focused on mobility, organized by an enterprise from Portugal. So we want to take this discussion a little bit more seriously. And in regards to the technology bit, it is also welcome, this proposal that you put forth. And the observatory will create in 2018 the first university in a favela. It is not a university for inhabitants of the favela. It is for the city, but it is located in the favela. We are discussing which course will be taught, and I want to implement an informatics course over there, because if we open a university with no informatics course of informatics, is the same thing as if we open a university in the 1500s and did not teach about sailing. So we have to have devices and applications and learn how to use them. This is the distinguishing factor. This is the challenge that I put to all of you. Some things can be built together, but other things we have to go from the very start. I will just ask for you so you can add up. This is a question of mine. There is a very different use of internet and mobile internet from the ghetto. I have a son that loves Android, for example. You can see that he uses Apple. And he laughs at me. He says that it's too comfortable and that I can't use it. I don't use Android because I can't configure it. So there's a very widespread use of Android. And I was in some communities of Rio de Janeiro that I used Wi-Fi free of charge. Do you notice information of what internet channel and use that your users do? I collaborate with a project called Viração. Do you know it? My 13-year-old son is part of the young agency of news in the project. And over there, they have a very different behavior as far as internet use. It is much more mobile, so it's no use. We can think about the magazine to download and put on the slideshow on the computer. Nobody's going to download that because the guy is on the train with an internet of X cents for the whole day. So we have to make this adjustment for the use that each public does. And I will take the opportunity to comment, since we have a question by Ana Maria Coelho. She's an entrepreneur. And we talk about design and experience, but the companies don't know that experience should offer something to the client. Why? Because companies still want to create opportunities in a country that would be from FGV. It is not a country from the communities. How would you recommend that these companies to reposition themselves? I would take the opportunity that I have the mic on my hand. I have a very short time. There are many questions, very different questions about the government participation. I agree with the thesis that says that everything that works have a local management. So any project from the government, from companies, if the people in the community did not take hands of the community and the management, sooner or later it will end. In the first crisis, it will tumble because the people can't recover. So everything that works has a local management, a public manager, and the company that doesn't understand this will create project after project that will end prematurely. Companies, I would just highlight a topic here. We have to be clear about something. Brazil is the great population of Brazil that do not read, that are not educated, can't write, and do not have access to interactivity, and do not even know how to use a computer. I barely make this category. So my friend Carol started here, and I was just kidding you, Carol. She was talking about 5 words, and 3 of them I didn't understand because they were in English. So calm down. I was like, calm down. We have a language, the Androids and the Apple. There are people that do not know Word, Microsoft Office. So education to use technology, education, financial education for the new formats of mobile banks. We need to understand that there is an initial phase to educate people about this. So congratulations to the popular university. So if we want people to use this, we have to educate them, because they are disenfranchised of this world. So in the Conjunto Palmeiras, we had the experience of a great cell phone operator, a great credit card operator of mobile payment. It was an excellent technology to pay, sell, and through the cell phone. The population did not participate in it because they did not comprehend how they would pay through the cell phone. They thought that money would just fly away. It might seem like a joke, but it's not. What if they steal my cell phone? Will they steal my money along with it? That's why people thought, because the operator did not convince people that they need to do a financial education. Of course, people will understand that they send SMS for everybody. One thing is to send an SMS. Another thing is to do a payment through the mobile. The program ended because they did not have the financial education to use this new technology. So I leave a great contribution here, so we can think about this new technological moment, and we have to educate people on it. Just to talk about something here. That's it. There is a survey conducted by IBASE called Communication and Youth in Movement. If you Google it, you'll find it. This is a survey that was done about this. Well, I am Márcia Farias. I am a photographer, graduated by Image of the People, Imagem do Povo, and I'm currently a student of SPOC. I will talk very briefly about my experience as a student. What is interesting for me in doing a course of affirmative publicity. Many of the students that are part of the school, they already have their projects, they work in several different things. Some are dancers, some of them work on TV, they work with recycling, and doing a course like this helps us direct our work in a better way, in a more suitable way, so we can have a broader public and reach more people. So it's very interesting for us to utilize what we learn in the work that we do. I would like to say a few more things, but I know the schedule is tight. I know people are rushing here. Well, we will have to close the panel, but we will have lunch, and I thank everybody that participated. A couple of things that are said here are also our global topics. It is going on in India, it is going on in Africa. So some of the things that you heard here are global topics. We will be here during lunch if you want to talk with us, exchange some ideas. Welcome too. Well, thank you, Ginho. Thank you, everybody. Congratulations. The panel was wonderful.